Good morning, Gearheads. Welcome to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM. It's John Massengale sitting in the studio with Jonathan Green and Les Kaiser. Bob Varsha joining us via Zoom, and Dave O'Neill is not with us this morning, but we are excited. We have the Turkish Grand Prix coming up in about an hour, and let me start with you, Bob Varsha. What are you excited about for the Turkish Grand Prix?
It must be said. But I think it's a great track. It was the fourth track designed by Herman Tilke and Associates, who've done many of the big modern state-of-the-art Formula One tracks around the world. It's got a lot of different corners, a lot of blind corners, a lot of elevation change. And this morning, it's got a relatively new racing surface with water on it. So last year, the whole thing was a complete jump ball because the track had just been repaved, oil coming to the surface of the asphalt, mixed with rain. And it was just bizarre. One of the wildest races I've seen in a long, long time. And this one has the potential to be too, now that we've got rain on the racetrack. If it dries quickly, I mean, look what happened at Sochi in Russia 2 weeks ago in the last 3 laps when the rain came down. Lando Norris cruelly robbed of his maiden Formula One win. Lewis Hamilton came through to win by nearly a minute in the conditions. And I think this is going to be similar. It's going to be wild, and I'm looking forward to it.
Jonathan Green, the sun has not come up yet, and your usual enthusiasm knob is turned down to about a 4 right now. I'm waiting.
It is. It's at a 4 right now, but I'm excited by the idea of rain. Bob's right. It was a bit of a mess up. Yes, I'll be back. I'll be there. I'm waking up. But I am intrigued by this because of the grip of the track. It's a completely different track than last year. It's caught some people out. In fact, it's even caught Pirelli out. They brought a softer tyre that I don't think anybody will use because of the grip that they've got. And they were finding it even in the wet, how grippy it was. I went to Turkey a few years ago for superbikes, and it hadn't been used for years. And it was bit of a mess, to be honest. It was overgrown and not being looked after. But I was really buoyed yesterday to see the crowds and to see how many people were there, to see how clean the track looked and how everything looked really, really good. And I agree with Bob. I love this track. I mean, you spend a time on board and go through 3 and 4, 7's fantastic, and 8, of course, is flat out. It's really good, really, really good circuit. And I actually think, Hamilton was asked yesterday after qualifying, do you think you can pass here? And he's like, yeah, I do. I think you can. We'll see, but I've got to do some passing.
Well, we got Max Verstappen lined up behind Valtteri Bottas, so we'll probably see at least an attempt at least one pass. Les Kaiser, what do you think about today?
Oh, I love the track. A lot of flow to it. Really looks cool. The slippery conditions I saw where they actually kind of power washed the track, trying to clean it up and get some grip. Not sure that accomplished what they wanted, but the racetrack is what it is today. Hamilton all the way in the back. We'll see if everybody just steps aside and lets him fly by, or if he has to fight his way.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a mix of it.
Hamilton's starting 11th, and I was thinking about that penalty. Look, pushing them all the way to the back of the grid, like we've seen with some of these engine penalties. Hamilton only took. It's funny. I heard everybody describe it. He took an engine a powertrain component, a power unit component. I was like, it was the internal combustion engine. It was the V6 that was replaced.
But what was interesting, he could have got penalized more if he'd have taken the turbocharger and everything else.
If he'd taken more, but that was my point. Is that since he's starting 11th, this is going to be exciting to see. But starting in the back, you don't really even have a chance. But look, we could see Hamilton fighting for the win.
Hey, come on, Verstappen did it from the back.
Hey, look,
that's true. That's true. That's true.
And Hamilton to second.
Yep, all the way to second.
Very true. Hamilton better hope there's places to pass.
Yeah,
I don't see any doubt that Hamilton will be fighting for the win.
Yeah.
Now, by contrast, you've got Carlos Sainz, who took the complete power unit change that his teammate Charles Leclerc did in Sochi. And so Sainz does start from all the way in the back in 20th and is going to have to work his way forward. The thing about this lineup, and it's an interesting one, is that because the hiatus for Turkey was so great, only 2 drivers in this field have raced on this track in a Formula One car before. That's Kimi Räikkönen and Fernando Alonso, the 2 oldest drivers in the field. Everybody else is kind of feeling their way, no matter how confident they may sound or how good their car may be. There's a lot of these drivers don't know about this track, and the rain just sort of makes that situation even worse, if that's the right word.
Well, let me just run down real quick. Let me run down qualifying, then we'll go to the starting grid. But Lewis Hamilton qualified fastest, Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso in 6th, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda down in 10th. Good run for him.
Pretty impressive, AlphaTauri.
Yeah. Sebastian Vettel 11th, Esteban Ocon, George Russell in 13th, Mick Schumacher in 14th,
Cool.
Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, Nicholas Latifi, Antonio Giovinazzi, Kimi Räikkönen 19th, and Nikita Mazepin 20th. Lots to talk about as we scroll down that. But I'm going to start with the American, Mick Schumacher, man. Fantastic. He looked great.
He got through to Q2. I almost thought he might get through to Q3, but a really good. I think it's his best qualifying.
Yeah, comparing to Nikita Mazepin.
Mm-hmm.
American team, of course. Mick is
yeah,
German.
sorry, American team.
And I should qualify my comment about the drivers not racing here before. Of course, they raced here last year under very different circumstances. The race was in November. It was a lot colder. It was wet.
Right.
But still very similar to what we're going to see today. And I double down on what you said about Mick Schumacher. That was a great drive in qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
Really is. He was, soft where he needed to be on the accelerator. And I think, somebody mentioned he's in a good place to have his best finish of any race so far, potentially even point worthy.
Yeah, throw in some rain and maybe he could.
Yeah, and I think given that the dog that is the Haas car, and I don't mean that, well, I do mean it really, because it is a dog.
You're just stating a fact.
Yeah, they've done nothing, unfortunately, this year. They're the new Williams, sadly. But Mick, as a driver, is showing. Mazepin hasn't. He's made too many mistakes, and for whatever reason, he's not got to grips with that car, whereas Mick seemingly is taking... this reminds me of early days of Tyrrell and John Lacey, doing stuff that isn't normal with the car because you haven't got a competitive car, but being seen because you're being competitive.
Wow. When you say dog of the field, I think Labrador, not Greyhound. The lovable, likable, you want them to do well, they're eager. Is that right, Jonathan?
I think so, yeah. All my analogies are dogs now.
Hey, Bob, do you think... Bob, do you think that high a praise with Mick Schumacher? I mean, yeah, or is it Nikita Mazepin not very good, or a little of both?
Well, I think it's a little of both. I mean, Mick is obviously quite a good driver. He doesn't have the equipment he probably merits. But, until he gets that equipment, we really won't know what Mick can accomplish. I absolutely agree that he is what's the Shakespeare phrase? Damned by faint praise, running alongside of Nikita Mazepin, who can't get within 3 seconds of him in the opening round of qualifying yesterday. So, yeah, Mick is still, I think, a diamond in the rough.
Bob, we normally give out the $50 word prize, but that's the $50 phrase. We'll go ahead and give it to you.
If he's quoting Shakespeare at 6 a.m, gosh, I tell you, that's good stuff.
If you don't send people to their reference materials once in a show, you're not doing your job.
I agree. No, Bob, I defer to your greater wisdom.
I think Schumacher, though, in all seriousness, demonstrated one of the aspects of this track that I think is really going to be a factor in today's race, and that is the track evolution during the course of the day. Yeah. Rain is going to make it even more dramatic, I think, as the dry line appears. But as the rubber goes down, the track gets so much quicker. I mean, Mick Schumacher wound up 14th in qualifying. Behind him, Daniel Ricciardo, the Monza winner, who has shown so well in the second half of the season, he came across the line in qualifying well ahead of anybody else, and then had to sit there and watch as the guys behind him got faster and faster, pretty much just because of the racetrack, as it got grippier and provided more speed. It was remarkable to watch, and I think we're going to see that in the race today.
Yeah, I mean, after what we've been through in the last, 2 months, 3 months, you couldn't predict this. I mean, Gasly's up there, Tsunoda's top 10. You've got Ricciardo's, not where he should be. Hamilton's not where he should be. Sainz is at the back.
Alonso in fifth.
I mean, these conditions could suit Alonso brilliantly.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to watch. Is Fernando Alonso today? This year he has really looked. He's looked great, and at times just like his old brilliant self.
Well, I said at the beginning of the season that it could either kill Ocon's career or it could enhance it. And I actually think as we speak right now, I don't think it's done any harm to Ocon. He's held his own, but Fernando has just driven brilliantly.
Yeah.
He is he's not out there just to get a paycheck for sure. Even at 40 years of age, Fernando still is sharp, still aggressive. You know, he had that turn one shortcut at Sochi, and when he was called on it, he pointed out that other guys had done it. He made some cryptic remarks about different rules for different people, how depending on where you were and who the stewards were, maybe certain drivers were getting the benefit of the doubt while others weren't. He really tried to force the officials' hands. And that's not a guy who's just out there going through the motions. Alonso really wants to get back to the front, and he's doing a good job of it along with that Alpine team.
Yeah, it's good to see. Like you say, there is always a worry that at that age somebody is taking a paycheck. He's not.
Yep. Best start since Japan in 2014, even allowing for his time away.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
That's yeah. This should be good. You know, with his experience and everything he's done in the past, he's got some pretty wet races that he's been in and performed well. So another exciting point of the race today.
I keep checking the television. ESPN has not given us any views. I want to see what the track conditions are like because it was wet. So
I don't think it's raining now, but I think it has rained.
Yeah. Oh, we got lots to talk about here. Let's see. Let's finish up on the grid here because what about the McLaren cars? What do you think, Bob? Got Lando in 8th, and we touched on Ricardo.
They don't seem to be as sharp as they were in the two most recent races in Italy and then in Russia. Lando starts 7th. Probably still smarting after that decision gone awry in the final 3 laps when it started to rain in Russia. He thought he could hold off Lewis Hamilton on slick tires in the wet, and it obviously went wrong. So I think he's still driving with a little bit of anger, and hopefully that will show today. Daniel Ricciardo, as I said, just wasn't able to take advantage of the track when it was at its prime. So he starts back there in 15th place, but I think he's one of the drivers we're going to see coming forward aggressively.
The potential. It's expected to be a 2-stop race. That's the conservative view. It's a very short pit lane entry and exit, something like 20 seconds. So that's kind of another reason why it kind of cements that, because you don't lose as much as you might do at some other tracks. I think it's going to be an interesting strategy. Like I said, the soft tire I don't think will be used because it's too soft. I think they made not a mistake, but I think they underestimated just how grippy the new surface would be. And so I think we've got a few things that are up in the air that aren't normally up in the air for a Formula One race. You know how they like to have it organized. Huh?
Go ahead. I mean, it's interesting that this track is going to evolve like a street circuit, I think. And so that's going to be one factor. And it's the tire situation is such that we lean away from the softest, grippiest tire because it won't last toward the hard end of the range. I mean, how often do we see that? I mean, the hard tires are usually put away after Friday practice, but they're going to need maybe 2 sets if it dries out sufficiently in today's race.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see somebody like Russell who didn't get through to Q3 this time, rarely, because he's such a good tire management guy. How well he does and how he will go long and so on and so forth. So we're going to get some strategy here, but the weather is going to be the main factor.
Yeah, I'm looking at a live feed on Twitter from Formula One, and it is not raining currently. So
looks like clouds on the ground just about. Though.
But we did have some news overnight because we were just talking about Daniel Ricciardo. He has opted for a new internal combustion engine, new turbo, and a new MGU-H that all have exceeded the limits. So now he's going to start from the back of the grid.
Oof. Ooh. And at this point, he'll wind up surely last, I think.
I think behind, it should mean he's behind Sainz as Sainz out-qualified him. I think that's the way that works.
Looking at the grid, yes, shows that Carlos is 19, Daniel is 20.
So we got a lot of people coming through.
Yeah.
It's good.
And you guys saw that Alonso yesterday was under investigation for allegedly not slowing under the double yellow wave flags in Q1, but that was there was no further action on that. I guess they decided that he had slowed enough. So but that was not.
That is such a vague thing. Seriously, folks, can we just put a speed limit on that? If you see a single yellow, it's this much, double yellow, it's this much, and just like we did the pit lane.
That could be a little dangerous depending on how fast you're going when the speed limiter kicks in. But I'm thinking that might be Alonso, needling the officials again. Okay, I'll slow down a little. And then when they look at the engine traces and the speed on the computers, they'll see that, he in fact did slow down. But again, I think he's sort of, daring the officials to penalize him. He's taking it right to the nth degree, which I think is kind of fun to watch myself.
Let off the throttle a tiny little millimeter. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we'll be 45 minutes or so from the start of the Formula One Turkish Grand Prix. Listen to Speed City live from Austin, Texas. Back after a quick break.
Hello, I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
Nothing like a little Van Halen cranked up in my headphones instead of coffee at 6 a.m.
Still missing Eddie.
Let's go ahead and let's get a word in from our sponsor. The Speed City F1 pre-race show on Sirius XM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Use the cloud to secure your team in the office, at the track, or anywhere with CrowdStrike at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. All right, gentlemen. Jonathan, you mentioned Lance Stroll during the break. We were talking about Annie Bradshaw and all the folks she's worked for, but Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel yesterday. What did you think about those two?
It's funny. I think it was DeResta, one of the commentators on Sky's coverage or ESPN's coverage yesterday, was saying that you just don't know with Aston Martin at the moment. Sometimes they're brilliant, sometimes they're not so brilliant.
That's exactly why I asked you that.
Yeah, it's like it depends on the track. I think the car is track sensitive, and I think Vettel's up to speed. Stroll has always been up to speed. And I think it's going to be a potent force as Aston Martin grow under this new sort of setup. So I don't know. I don't know whether, like I said, can't predict what Aston Martin will do. But they weren't as impressive as they have been in other Grand Prix qualifying-wise, but that doesn't mean to say their race pace won't be.
I want to get Bob's opinion on it, but I want to give out the phone number. We are going to give away some swag in these last few races. The number's 512-643-5483, 512-643-LIVE. I also want to tease a couple things because there's been a story a-bubbling and a-brewing this week, and it's the story that is a continuation about the Michael Andretti looking to purchase a Formula One team. And in the last few days, the bubbling has been that the targeting that he's done has been honed in and focused on the Sauber team. And
it's almost like it's too good to be true.
Yeah, there's so many fantastic angles to this story that we are going to go in depth on this. And to help us do that and to have a great American Formula One potential driver, we're going to have Kyle Kirkwood on in the post-race show.
New Indy Lights champion.
Yes, who happens to... who has won every single thing that he's ever raced in. Formula 3, Formula 4, Formula 3, Indy Lights, what else? USF.
USF 2000, Pro 2000.
You name it. And his win-to-loss ratio is stunning. I mean, it is... in F3 and F4...
If you keep winning, then you will keep getting rewarded in the American system. And again, winning Indy Lights gives him a budget that will take him to Indy.
Yeah.
That's such a great point, Jonathan. And I tell that to young racers all the time. Don't jump into a big series just because they get more press than something else. Get into a series where you can win races, because that's what potential employers want to see, is the fact that you can succeed.
Good point.
Well, God, Bob, I think let's continue on this path. We'll come back to Vettel and Stroll, but so let's think through this a little bit. Jonathan, we've been talking about this for the last couple of days, you and I, and Bob, we talked last night, but if we end up with Andretti buying this team, and he said he wants to have an American driver, I mean, there's talk about the possibilities, Jonathan.
Well, I mean, you only have to look at his own stable. We've mentioned Kirkwood. He's perfect age, 22, 21. I'll check that, but I think it's 22. And he is currently driving for Andretti in Indy Lights and has won the championship. So there is reward to be had for a young Carl Kirkwood, who doesn't have, to be fair, the international experience. But then look at his actual, he's just signed Grosjean. Hello. He's got some experience. Oh, wait, Rossi got him. And then there is a certain Colton Herta, which is the obvious choice, and was mentioned actually by the Sky commentary and by Jenson Button. That, to me, seems the obvious if Colton is of such a mind to do so. In other words, he's got the age. Yeah, he's got the age, he's got the talent, and I really would like to see our top Indy American contender, because I would argue that Pato Ward from Mexico's, Palau, obviously Spanish. Then you've got Dixon and Rossi and so on. But I think that in terms of age, Colton Herta is exactly the right guy.
But there is one thing he does not have, Colton Herta, and that is a Formula One super license.
That's the problem.
He's about 7 points.
Accumulate enough points. But if Michael's process of his timeline is to get control of the team for 2022 and then, make a real positive change for 2023, that gives Colton Herta time to get those super license points that he would need to drive in Formula One. But I agree with you, the lineup, and maybe we're adding up 2 and 2 and getting 5 here, but Roman Grosjean with Formula One experience, Alexander Rossi with Formula One experience. I mean, Michael does not come into this with his team as a bunch of newbies. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. They've got some terrific experience as they kind of go around the perimeter of Formula One, ready to jump in. I think it's really exciting, and it'll be the story of the year if Michael can pull that off sometime between now and Christmas.
Well, I said it was too good to be true, and what I mean by that is to have an Andretti name back in Formula One truly does set America on a path to be part of this game. I mean, we are so much a part of the game in the background, as it were, and Haas has done its part, but it's it is only a bit player for now. What
do you think? What do you think about what I was saying yesterday about the difference between? Someone asked me. They said, "It's my wife." She said, "Like, well, what's the difference between?"
Someone?
Yeah.
Have you ever told her you call her that? It's all right. She won't be up.
Call her Queen.
Yeah, she's not up yet. The difference between she said, well, you already have an American team. And I was like, well, but the Haas F1 team, when he set out from the day one, he said, I'm not even going to get a sponsor because my whole goal is to let the worldwide big industry know that I have Haas Automation. You can buy your CNC tools from me. I don't care. And they've never even looked twice at American driver, as far as I can tell.
I remember when he said that, I just thought it was an odd thing to say, given that there are so many other ways of marketing your product, especially when it's a large metal automation company. But there you go.
Go with what you know, though. He
is a very successful motor racing guy.
But anyway, if Andretti's going to do this, they're talking about an IPO for the $250 million to help them do this. I'm thinking they're going to get American sponsors and American drivers. I mean, if they can do this, they might. We haven't really had momentum with Americans in Formula One and Americans watching Formula One in a long time, and maybe never to the level that we've hoped, right?
And look what he's buying into. He's buying into a team, Sauber, that have survived when others haven't. So I don't think they'll get rid of the Swiss influence there. And the structure that is there. They've got a fantastic sponsor in Alfa Romeo and a fantastic relationship with Ferrari. So, these are, one of the biggest things for Haas was that relationship with Ferrari. And I worried when Alfa Romeo came sort of into the scene that they would lose that influence with Ferrari. It hasn't happened. And I think they stand alone on their own. And I like them as a prospect. They've just taken on Bottas, for gosh sake, to replace Raikkonen. And they haven't announced their second driver, which is why this story definitely has some legs.
That's what I was just going to say.
Well, and I love that Sauber dates back to like late 70s. I mean, so it's, it doesn't get the prominence in a lot of circles that Williams does with Frank Williams, but was it Pete or Paul Sauber?
Peter Sauber.
And I can tell you, Peter Sauber is one of the nicest, most low-key people you could ever meet. And I think Michael Andretti would be wise, he and his lieutenants, to put a lot of faith in the counsel of Peter Sauber, because as Jonathan points out, this guy has been a lifer. He has carried this team on his shoulders for 30 years and more. He has been successful, doing a lot of it on his own. I mean, he's in Switzerland, for crying out loud, where they don't even have a racetrack.
Nope.
So, yeah, Peter Sauber is a great guy. He brought Michael Schumacher into Formula One. He was talent. He brought Kimi Räikkönen into Formula One after fewer than 24 races in any kind of car, straight out of
Massa,
karting.
didn't he?
Wow. Felipe Massa.
Yep.
I mean, he's had a long-time relationship with Ferrari. It just works for Andretti in so many ways, this whole situation, I think. It's really exciting.
I know. It's hard not to get overly excited. Giddy, exactly.
Like I said, it's too good to be true, but if it goes through, is this the triumvirate? Is this what you have been saying since we started, which is we need a driver?
We've got the American venue. We've got the permanent home in Coda.
And now we've got a street track as well.
And now we've got a street track. We've got one American team. We've got American owners. American driver is the thing that we've absolutely needed. And if we can, I mean, with an Andretti team, that's a pretty close second, but if they really do put an American driver with an Andretti team, and with what Netflix has done with the driving the audience and the ESPN numbers this year, I mean, it's all kind of in a perfect storm headed to the fact that, I mean, ultimately, if the numbers, Formula One has caught Indy in ESPN ratings. If they could catch NASCAR, that's what I'm talking about right there. All right, we're going to go to a break. We do have a caller on the line. Please see who it is. It's Robert. So, Robert, hang on, buddy, because we're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get you on. You listen to Speed City live from Austin, Texas, back after a quick break.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
We haven't talked enough about Max Verstappen, but I want to go back to Andretti because Bob Varsha has more to the story, as they say. Bob, what else? And then we're going to go to our caller. But Bob, I want to hear what you had to say.
Well, just one final point, and it's another quiver in Michael's effort here to get into Formula One, and that's his father, Mario, who remains, to my mind, one of the most popular figures in Formula One all these years after his world championship. I mean, everybody knows Mario. He's urbane, he's funny, he's insightful. I can tell you the Formula One press room could not be happier if they wind up getting regular visits from Mario Andretti in the years ahead, because I think
that's a good point.
That'll be huge for American interest in Formula One.
And just watching him at Coda in the paddock, he always is a huge crowd around him, and he is, he was the Coda ambassador, right, at the beginning of Circuit of the Americas, but he's just the ambassador is the right word for him. You can almost just, he just has a presence and he just holds court, but he's so humble and stays till the very last man.
Here's one thing that we've learned about Mario Andretti is never expecting him to be on time, because he's going to take time to speak to every fan, sign every autograph.
But there is a sort of footnote to that. I mean, the Unzers and the Rahals do not have a Formula One pedigree, if you will. Andretti has one in both. He has an Indy pedigree and, of course, a Formula One pedigree, having been a world champion. So it is the one royal family of racing in America that the Brits and the Europeans really do look up to.
Right.
All right, let's go to our caller. We have Robert calling from Bollinger, Texas. Hey, Robert, good morning. What are you doing up so early?
Oh, going to work. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to work, and I'm listening to you guys. I'm serious.
Well,
That's the only way I'm going to be able to catch the Formula One coverage today.
Good.
Well, what's that ding belong to?
Oh, that was my seatbelt.
Well, I mean, what kind of car are you driving is what I'm getting at this morning.
Oh, I drive a Ford F-250.
Well,
this particular vehicle I'm in is a company car.
Okay, well, that's
Ballinger, Texas.
That's just going to
seriously. That's like
what you need.
It's the company car of Texas or something like that.
Right.
Well, Robert, who are you looking for to win today?
I'm looking for Max Verstappen. I like the kid. He's been great for the sport, and he's really added. They've had a back and forth battle for the championship. Somebody needs to give Hamilton and Mercedes a run for their money.
Here.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that. Well, Robert, we got a Speed City hat for you. So if you hang on the line, we'll get your info and get a hat out your way out there towards Bollinger.
Great. Love your show.
Well, thank you very much.
Can I ask Robert a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
Hey, Robert, this is Bob Varsha. How did you get involved in Formula One? What made you interested in all these worldwide antics?
Well, I spoke to you last, I don't know if it was 2 races ago or the last race after the after show. And I'm one of the old school guys. I've been watching since I was a little kid in the 70s. And, my dad had went to Monaco back. He went twice or something like that over there to Monaco in the 50s.
Wow.
And he was always interested, and that drove my interest, of course. And then we would watch it on Memorial Day there on broadcast TV. And then, of course, after cable TV came around, I was able to watch all the races since the, early 90s, whenever they really started broadcasting, the whole season. Or it was the late 80s, I can't remember.
Yeah, 80s.
Because it was on Speed. It was on Speed Channel back then, and then ESPN. Maybe that was an affiliate of ESPN. I can't remember that either.
I think Bob knows that story.
Yeah.
Right. Started on ESPN and then gravitated to Speed Vision, Speed, Fox, NBC, on and on and on and on.
Oh,
Back to
okay.
ESPN.
Okay.
Nothing ever changes.
There you go.
Right.
Hey, Robert, have you been over to Midland, Odessa and gone to Jim Hall's Chaparral wing of the Petroleum Museum?
No, I sure haven't.
All right.
I haven't been to that place in a long, long time.
Well, point that forward that direction. You need to go see that.
Right?
Robert, thanks for calling, buddy. We appreciate it. We appreciate you listening.
Best of luck to Max.
Yeah, we'll be watching Max for you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right. Well, we just had Paul Bryan, who watches regularly, and he was telling us that our feed is our video feed on Twitter, on social media was rough. So we're checking on that, Paul. Thanks for pointing that out. I want to tell everybody that we've been talking about this Andretti story, and we're going to talk a lot more about it in the post-race show because, this is way too big for us. This is, like you said, the dream come true, Jonathan.
Although, to be fair, the one thing that's frustrating is that...
It's what?
Frustrating.
Frustrating? Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
Frustrating is that Michael's fairly stum about it. We haven't been able to really get a lot of information. There is rumor that maybe something will happen at Coda, or we'll get some more information. So watch this space because Michael, the facts are the facts. He's created an IPO. He has said in press that he is in talks, has had talks, and I believe it goes something on the lines of he spoke to Haas, he spoke to Williams, and Alfa Romeo seems to be the obvious buy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, he's often here anyway for the USGP. I spoke to him one of the trips here, and so I think he's got an interest anyway because, quite honestly, he's got a personal interest, I'll say, because he didn't have a team here, and yet he was coming. So there's that interest that's been around for him.
Well, and also, I think, and Bob, we talked about this yesterday. What you don't realize is just how many tentacles that Andretti Autosport has around the world. You think of Andretti as an Indy team, but they've got Indy Lights, they've got a V8 team, a Formula E team, and a Formula Extreme team, which is something that Bob's been involved in.
Rallycross, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Bob, his association with Zach Brown's United Autosports team has helped him extend that reach. And there'll be a bit of a corporate reorganization having to go on, I guess, because Zach Brown, of course, is the principal at McLaren with a lot of interest in sports cars and whatever of his own. It's going to get a little crowded around that table.
Yeah.
And Bob, didn't you have a discussion with Michael back in like 2013 or something?
I did, back at Circuit of the Americas in one of the early U.S. Grand Prix there. I was speaking to an audience, and Michael was one of my guests. And I asked Michael about a Formula One team then. And he took the question dead serious, didn't laugh or anything. He said, yeah, I'd like to do that. And, he's worked on it for, a decade since. And it looks like it might come to fruition.
Do you have that audio? We'll
yeah.
play it.
Well, let me ask. I want to ask Bob a question. What's the motivation for Andretti? I mean, we all know Formula One is a fickle girl. She's
World
a
domination.
tough girl to date. In other words, Haas hasn't gained a great deal, and in fact, almost pulled out because he's not doing what he does in NASCAR at all. So what is Andretti's motivation here?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously, you have the family history and the fact that Michael drove in Formula One, not with a lot of success, one podium at Monza. And I think he thinks there's a lot of unfinished business there for him. But I would tell you, years ago, when I was working with Fox in Charlotte, I ran into John Andretti, Michael's late cousin. Yeah. And I asked him about Michael's growing empire. And John said, I'm not sure Michael was anywhere near as happy as a race-winning IndyCar driver as he is now as a deal maker and a team owner and all that sort of thing. He said Michael just loves being involved in racing as an owner and cutting these deals and putting complex arrangements together. So I think that is what drives him too, is that Formula One is a plum, not just for a driver seeking to be a world champion, but for a guy with a strong business sense who wants to be an operator, a player, if you will, at the highest levels of world motorsport. I think that may be a little bit behind what drives Michael in this effort.
Good point.
Yeah. Think about we're seeing Doralton Capital step in. I think that's what these guys do. They make money. And the numbers that ESPN are seeing, all that spells money. So, I know it's hard to make
part of it. I think it's more than just money. I mean, you're right that there's money to be made. But, I think Michael's driven by more than that, as he was.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that
But he wouldn't do it if he wasn't going to make money. If he thought he was just going to pour money into it.
It's got to be a business deal.
Yeah. I mean, Haas came in because he has a passion for Formula One. And as you say, he wanted to take Haas Automation to a global audience. And he already has a successful NASCAR team. So he knows what racing and winning in racing is all about. But like you say, I think the ground now with Liberty, with the cap of 150 million, and the future with the new car from 22, I do think that it's the right time compared to, let's say, that Anderson, that Swedish-American group, and Bob will remind me what it was called, but that tried to get in a few years ago. It was just the wrong timing for them.
Like a decade ago now.
Yeah, almost a decade ago. Haas, I think their decision to stay in for the extra 5 years when they signed for the Concorde last year was significant because it was either piss or get off the pot, excuse my French, but that was it. And they've stayed, and I'm delighted they have. And I think that they have taken a fallow year because they knew this car wasn't going to be anything and they weren't going to develop it. But they looked to the future. They took 2 young drivers on, and in a weird way, Haas is actually set fair for the same reasons that Andretti is, because they're going to be using the same power unit if it all pans out. And so it's an interesting time to be joining Formula One in a much better situation for an incoming team.
Can they use the 2019 power unit that Ferrari had?
Do they?
I said, can they? Can they use that one instead?
Oh, I see. Yeah, the really good one.
Yeah, the really good one. The one that burned oil as well as gasoline. I think this one was. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get a break in, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion, and we'll get close to the race. And I'm looking. It looks like some intermediate tires going on, so we'll talk all about that. You listen to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
I popped open a browser this morning to get ready and saw that my Texas A&M Aggies beat Alabama. That was, speaking of stunning things happening. How'd y'all's Longhorns do yesterday?
Oh,
I mean, it's the best leg in ball.
Too soon. Too soon.
Fattening up.
Cheap shot.
hey,
We're
hey.
talking motor racing. What are you talking about?
Oh man, I couldn't believe it though. All right, so we are
About them Cowboys.
Well,
Beef
yeah,
stock.
my Cowboys have been doing good this year too. That's going to be have fun to little watch. All right, speaking of things to talk about, I want to talk about our sponsor, CrowdStrike. Has your workforce moved from the office to the home, or to the garage, or maybe a rented cabin with open Wi-Fi? If your company has expanded outside the office and moved all your applications to the cloud, there's a whole new world of threats you have to worry about, including ransomware. CrowdStrike revolutionized security by harnessing the speed and power of the cloud to identify and stop the most advanced cyber attacks, even those that have never been seen before. So now you can work securely anywhere. Try CrowdStrike Falcon free today and protect your data and employees anywhere. Welcome to Anywhere. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches. Access the CrowdStrike Falcon platform free at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. Les Kaiser, you look like you had something to tell me there.
Oh, I just was gazing at the Aston Martin pace car. Got to see the 007 movie this week, where they debuted the DB Superleggera.
Ooh, nice.
I don't know who needs a 715 horsepower V12, but I'll take one.
It's not need is not the right word.
Yeah.
But do you want?
I did have I had a neighbor come over one time, and as I was bolting a supercharger onto my Corvette, and he was like,
"Why?"
He said, "Why?" And I just looked at him and said, "I can't explain it. If you actually have to ask that question,
We can't be friends.
Not only can we not be friends, I just can't explain.
I can't
it.
help you.
Yeah, I can't help you.
Well, if one ride doesn't convince him, just, the friendship's over.
You know what? That's exactly right. Because my brother had the same opinion. He got in the car and he just was grinning ear to ear. So yes, all it takes is a ride for somebody to understand that. Just ask anybody that's driven one of the new instant torque Teslas. Okay, we're going to talk Formula One now, boys and girls. Bob, let's go to you. We got about 10 minutes left. Let's talk about what we expect here. I mean, it looks like it's not raining at the moment. The Haas F1 team said they're putting on intermediate tires, but I don't know if that's what all is going to happen here. But what are you looking forward to turn one, let's say?
Chaos. That's what we'd be looking forward to. I think, once again this week, there's going to be a big difference between the clean line that the odd-numbered cars will start on behind pole sitter Valtteri Bottas from Mercedes. Verstappen will start on the dirty line, but his starts have gotten a lot better. That special white livery I expect to see in the mix down there at turn one. And then, it's anybody's guess. It'll be, I think I'm correct in saying it'll be a left-hand turn, and Verstappen will probably wind up on the outside in that corner. I mean, it's going to be really interesting. And there'll be a big backup because there's heavy braking for turn one. The officials have told the teams, we're going to be enforcing track limits at 3 of the corners in particular, 1, 6, and 11, I believe. I'm particularly looking forward to turn 8, that 4 apex corner falling away to the driver's right as they turn left. It's going to be slick, and it could be interesting to see who's still on track at the end of lap 1.
For sure. The turn 1 and turn 14 have been ugly for a lot of folks too, going wide on both situations.
Jonathan Green, you put more things in the show doc than you have in weeks. Which one of these things are you just dying to tell us about here?
4 Honda-powered cars starting inside the top 10. Really impressive when you think about it. I mean, we labored through the Honda years with McLaren, and I kept saying, wait. You
said it. I will give you 100% credit. You were like, the Japanese are not going to be embarrassed.
Especially Honda.
Yes.
It's one of those things. Bob and I have done 2 wheels as well as 4. And one thing I can tell you about Honda is they don't go away and they don't like being beaten. And they have the wherewithal to come back. And I also think they're not leaving. They say they're withdrawing from Formula One, but the way I read it is Red Bull are taking over the operation. That's what's happening. Right. And that Honda will remain in Formula One, and there could be a connection to even Andretti on that point because he runs Honda engines at the moment. So don't think that Honda is leaving Formula One. Not now. They've got a power unit that is literally a world beater.
I thought that was really funny. In the announcement earlier this week, they had some details about how Red Bull is slowly going to take over the intellectual property rights of the Honda power plants. Honda will continue to assemble the power plants for next year. They will provide trackside engineering support and parts, and on and on and on. And I thought, wait a minute, what is this, a withdrawal?
Yeah.
We're going to withdraw, but we're going to keep doing everything we've done to this point.
I don't think they know what that means.
Yeah. They'll just stand behind the curtain. You won't get to see what they're doing.
Well, the rule has always been, other car companies build street cars and then go racing. Honda, from its beginning, has been a racing company that happens to build street cars and motorcycles and whatnot. So,
and very good ones and reliable ones.
Absolutely. Don't put anything past Honda.
Good point.
Hey, Jonathan, we touched on this, I think, but I love that you put this in here again about Netflix entering the broadcast side of things.
Well, this is a story. Yes, I do want to talk about that story. There's a couple of stories that I put in that I think stand out, which is the rise of ESPN's coverage, up 34% in terms of interest in the last couple of years, and kids younger age being interested in Formula One. And the combination of Netflix opening it up to a far wider mainstream audience has led to the managing director of Netflix to say, we would consider the rights after 2022, which is when ESPN's contract ends, to Formula One. And that really is interesting because Amazon are already involved in Formula One in their own way. They have a relationship with Liberty. And it would be very interesting to see Netflix sort of maybe taking a sort of over-the-top type view of Formula One and putting out. I mean, they are starting to buy into the live sports arena, and so why not?
You remember when ESPN took over the broadcast for Formula One, and of course, me being looking at the upsides, the bright side, the glass half full, was like, well, it's ESPN. You're going to have cable boxes in homes and in sports bars already tuned into ESPN. You might get some organic. But Netflix, everybody has Netflix now. I mean, it's just the penetration is incredible, probably. I don't know the numbers, but everybody has Netflix. And you're going to see we've seen what happened with the Drive to Survive from Formula One, that it pushed it up to the top. And so I can't say that this would maybe even better than ESPN for Formula One, for as far as just organic growing the audience.
The thing that ESPN has is if you get the ESPN app, you can watch every session anytime, and also the undercard, which is Formula 2 and FIA Formula 3, and Porsche Super Cup, whatever's going on in Formula One. So as a fan, it's great because ESPN has the bandwidth, if that's the word, to show you everything, which has not really happened in the past. Even NBC would struggle to find it one home, NBCSN. But there were other times where it had to go to other channels that NBC owned just to be able to fit it all in. So that's a plus. But what could Netflix do? I mean, they would take a completely different approach, and it might be a good one.
Oh, I totally agree. I think it would totally open things up. I mean, pandemic, I saw some meter that said about the huge increase in viewership using the Netflix platform. I just worry where the cornhole boys will be. Maybe they get more exposure now.
We could combine it.
Let's not.
Put a hole on the top of the car? I don't know. All right, gentlemen, we're almost out of time. Let's do our traditional pick the winner. Let's start with you, Mr. Green.
Ooh, I think Bottas needs a win. He's there to make a win because Hamilton's got to come through. And I think it may play out whereby if all goes well and he does his job, and I know that he's moving on, but I think his Finnish pride will tell him that he needs a win. It's the kind of track that he would win at. I like the conditions for him. So Bottas.
Okay. Yeah, he's due, isn't he? Les Kaiser.
Max, Bottas, and then a toss-up between Lando and Sergio.
Okay. Bob Varsha.
Wow. I think Verstappen wins the race. I think Lewis Hamilton makes the podium.
Yeah.
And I think he does so in second place. And I'm going to go with, dang it. I'll go with Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari for third.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Gasly on the podium and Hamilton.
I was just about to say that. You stole my thunder since
Sorry.
it was my turn.
Hey, John.
You took the ones I didn't take.
Yeah, no, I was like, well, what's left? If I had to choose, it's hard to bet against Max Verstappen coming around Valtteri Bottas at some points. Although I'll have to agree, Jonathan, it's Bottas is due, and he's got the rest of his career coming up. It's like he needs to go out with a win sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he'll be a little more aggressive. I don't know if that's true or not.
The strategy sits in his advantage
yep.
at this point.
But I always feel like that he has not been as aggressive as he should have been. That's what I feel about Bottas. And with the time remaining he's got with Mercedes, he's got to, in his head, go, look, I've got to be aggressive and win one. And, hey, you're starting on pole, so I know you're holding off Max. And Max's car did not look that fast until qualifying. And even then, it didn't look faster than the Mercedes. So, I think Bottas has a shot this time. But yeah, I'd love to see Gasly back on the podium or Leclerc. I'd love to see those guys. But all right, well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. But don't forget, we have our 1-hour post-race show coming up. And we have a special guest because we have the hottest young American driver, Kyle Kirkwood, going to be joining us in the post-race show, and we'll probably continue our discussion about the possibility of an Andretti Formula One team. And write the phone number down, 512-643-5483, because we want you to join the conversation. All right, we'll talk to you after the race.
Ciao, y'all.